What's going on, everybody? Josh from the lab here, and I wanted to jump on here and talk really quick about an interview that I just watched, which was absolutely, I don't know, it was interesting and it was terrifying at the same time. But the Nelk Boys from the Full Send podcast here on YouTube, they had an interview with Oj Simpson. And if you know who the Full Send guys are, then you would think, well, that's going to be one of the weirdest looking interviews that you've ever seen. And it was. And it was kind of interesting. And I was thinking, like, why would OJ, Orenthal James Simpson, Heisman Trophy winner, rushed for 2,000 yards in a single season, one of the greatest running backs in the history of the NFL, killer actor, no pun intended, and he just so happens to go on trial for the murder of two people, which he was found not guilty. However, that happened. It just did. There's not many people in the world, unless they're trolling you, believe that he's innocent of those crimes, but you know, that's neither here nor there. He was later convicted for burglary of his quote unquote own memorabilia, so on and so forth. So, you know, OJ Simpson, 75-year-old OJ Simpson sits down on the Nelk Boys Full Send podcast. And I'm going, why would OJ sit down with them and do this interview? Because they were trying to ask him about, like, you know, him murdering his wife, and he wasn't talking about it. But then I was, you know, thinking, well, that's probably what he does. He does these podcasts or these interviews. And, you know, if he's nice enough to come on your show, then he'll talk to you about stuff, anything but, you know, Nicole and Ron and the murder charges and the driving down the highway and in the Bronco, threatening to kill himself. You know, the list goes on and on and on, but he won't talk about any of that. But he will talk about the burglary. He will talk about doing time in prison and how he was a coach and all this crap. And he gave him a good interview, but I was thinking, you know, I would only want to ask OJ one question or a bunch of questions about one topic. I wouldn't care about anything else. And, but I was like, but you know, they're probably just happy to get him on the podcast. Then I come to find out that allegedly that they paid, OJ $100,000 for like an hour and 20 minutes podcast, $100,000, just a lot of money. $100,000 is a lot of money. And, so then I go, okay, well, that makes sense. So then I'm sitting there thinking about it and I go, these goons paid OJ Simpson $100,000 to come on a podcast, and he doesn't have to answer questions about going on trial for the murder of his wife and Ron Goldman, and they were okay with that? I mean, OJ, who wouldn't? I mean, if I'm paying him $100,000, he better have a full clad confession when he shows up for the interview. He better submit DNA. Bring the glove with you, Orenthal. He's talking about going on dates. I didn't know that was something that people wanted to do with OJ, going on dates. I mean, apparently there's people out there that don't mind, and they pay him $100,000 and he won't talk about any of it. You buffoons. How could you let that happen? bump it to 200 grand and make sure he has to answer those questions. He's not going to tell you the truth, but he wouldn't even answer. He wouldn't even answer. And and they do try like once or twice. And then OJ legitimately gives them a look like they're the next two victims because one of them asks, and it's almost like he's kind of being a smart ass about it. I don't know if he is or not, but he asks the guy, OJ Orenthal, the juice is loose, asked him who he thought the killer was. And OJ looks at him and says, I'm not going to talk about this, and stares at him incessantly. And then the other guy goes, okay, well, do you have anything else? And the other guy goes, no, I'm good. And OJ's still staring at the guy. It's insanely creepy. And then he snaps out of it and goes, nice try though. Ho, 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 ho. And you're going, oh my God, those kids are scared for their life. They're paid $100 grand. They got ripped off by OJ. He basically threatened their lives with the look on his face. And now it all makes sense that they paid him $100 grand and OJ did OJ things and came across likable, and you cross him, he scares you, so on and so forth. Please like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much.